excitement. I need to see better excitement from everybody. Welcome back to the first panel discussion for this afternoon. I hope you had an amazing lunch and even more amazing time at the different panel side discussions that we have. And I hope you've seen some of the art that we had and you attended the artist talks. My name is Sharon Kadzai Sakoponya and I'll be your MC for this afternoon. Now for this afternoon, we have an amazing lineup for you. And first of all, a round of applause for our morning speakers, Angela and Koliwe. Yes. They really did speak to the heart of MozFest Zambia 2024. And I'm really excited and I hope you are too. Now for this afternoon, we have an amazing conversation lined up just for you. We will be talking about governance and financial inclusion. And our panel will be moderated by Hugh Molotsi. Please, a round of applause for him. Yes, so please just be comfortable, relax, and I hope, you take your notes. We will take questions at the end of the session. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. I'll now head it over to Hugh.
Thank you, Farron. Mulubwanji MozFest. Oh, I didn't hear you. Mulubwanji. That's wonderful. Well, thanks everyone, and really looking forward to this session. Thanks for joining us. As Farron mentioned, my name is Hugh Molotsi. I'm the president and CTO of the Buy Nothing project. But more importantly, I'm a board member of the Mozilla Corporation. And so it's a great honor and privilege to be with you today. Today, we're going to talk about the gig economy and who gets to participate in it. And we want to take a multilateral look at opportunities, challenges in this space. And how we get to financial inclusion. So let me introduce my panel members. First, from Zambia, we have Chitundu Kasase, the Chief Executive Officer of the National Technology Business Center.
Thank you. Can I
Welcome.
Thank you.
Next, from Zimbabwe, we have Belinda Chaora, the Communications Coordinator with the Civio Institute.
Can I sit over there?
And then all the way from Uganda, we have Najuko Wanita, the Digital Economies and Future of Work Lead of the Nawi Afrifem Collection. And last but not least, we have Saloma Makawa from Kenya. She's a Senior Director of Visa International Samea.
Thank you.
So before we begin, I'll just remind everyone, we're looking forward to hearing your questions. So during the talk, as you have questions, please hold on to them. We will get to them at the end. So I want to just start off by having each of the panelists just say a few words about yourself. I'll start with Belinda. Just say a few words to introduce yourself.
Okay, thank you so much, Hugh, and good afternoon, everyone. So my name is Belinda. Like you said, I work for a think tank called Civio Institute. We are based in Harare, Zimbabwe. We do work across the continent looking at civic engagement, philanthropy, economic development, and livelihoods. I currently do communications for that organization, but my research focus is on entrepreneurship and financial inclusion.
Wonderful. Thank you. Chitundu?
Yes, good afternoon and welcome to Zambia. Those are coming out of Zambia. My name is Chitundu Kasase. Just one correction. Until about 3 months ago, I was the CEO of a government agency that drives digital innovation in Zambia. Currently, I'm just a tech citizen who's passionate about everything technology. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Yes, hi everyone.
Joey.
My name is Joanita Najuko. I go by Joey. I am a Pan-African feminist thinker and organizer. I work with the Nawi Collective, which is a political economy collective that focuses on macroeconomics and just making sense of the economy for African women and gender expansive people. And I lead the work on digital economies and the future of work.
Wonderful. Salome?
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Salome Makau. I work with Visa right now, overseeing the Southern Africa cluster. I'm passionate about digitizing payments and making payments inclusive in our communities. Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, welcome to all of you. And so my first question is for you, Belinda. Can you tell me, how has the gig economy made inroads in Africa?
Thank you, Hugh. That's a broad question. I'll try to answer as succinctly as I can. I think the gig economy has made inroads, not as much as we would like, obviously. But just as Angela was talking in the morning, she was talking about how technology has an impact. And it's not just about the technology, but it's about the impact that has happened within the communities. So that impact is there. That impact is evident across the different sectors that we encounter, whether it's healthcare, education, livelihoods, whatever it is, there is an impact. We do see that there is growing demand for gig jobs on the continent, a faster growth than in many other continents. There's also income that's coming through from the gig economy. One key thing, I think, just even talking to maybe Salome will touch on it, remittances have grown, and remittances are powered by gig workers. So remittances, I think, now are about 100 million, or about 6% of the GDP of African economies. So that's significant, and that would not have been possible if it wasn't for the numerous people who are working behind the scene as gig workers. So yes, there is impact. Yes, the work is evident. But I think when you look at other countries, they still room for more. And maybe that's the conversation that we're going to have this afternoon. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks so much, Belinda. Yeah, somebody said to me when they heard about this panel, they said, well, the gig economy is just the informal economy in Africa. And I guess now we are a way to more formalize it with these platforms. And then speaking of, I have a question for you, Joey. From an economist's perspective, do you see the gig economy as overall having a positive or negative impact?
Okay, thank you, Hugh. And just to say that I'm not an economist, I'm a baby political economist. Yeah, but I would like to start by saying that my answer may be highly on the negative, because a lot of the dominant narrative that we see when it comes to the gig economy, and particularly on the continent, is that it's bringing all these positive things, and that it might be the silver bullet to... Excuse me. It might be the silver bullet that is going to address all our unemployment problems. So when you look, if you only read, for example, business publications, you will think that the gig economy is like a godsend. It's this miracle that's really just going to wash away all the continent's problems. But we know that all these positive viral stories that we see are only standalone incidents, and we know that the trend has been that the gig economy and the precarity of it has really washed and backrolled away all the workers' rights and protections that have been fought for over time. And I think as we also have conversations about the gig economy, it's important that we are conscious of the context within which we are having this conversation, and the context within which digitalization and the fourth industrial revolution is happening. And this is a context where we still live in a deeply unequal world. We still live in a world where the top 1% still have more wealth than 95% of humanity. We still live in a world where African governments are grappling with debt and are not able to provide basic services for their citizens. And we are still living in a world where African bodies are continuously exploited and extracted for the benefit of a few. And so even as we continue to have these conversations, it's important for us to be cautious of that, and also to critique and question what these dominant narratives are, and also for us to start thinking about what decent work and fairness means. So within the context of, now to the economics bit, within conversation, observations on the economy. That unquenchable desire to extract and accumulate and maintain an unequal economic order where there's accumulation of wealth in the hands of a few. And so that also translates into labor relations in the sense that labor relations have always been, it's been an oppressive kind of relationship where the capitalist is always trying to steal from the workers. And so this same relationship is what has translated into the digital technology. And so what the gig economy has done is really change the nature of this exploitation, but it is still there. And actually, a lot of feminists and a lot of economists and equality advocates have come out to say that actually the digital economy has charged inequalities. So what does this mean? It means that behind all the flashy apps and the convenience of having my Amazon package delivered at when I'm at home chilling, it means that the dominant narratives of this platform, that the platform owners are pushing forward, is that there's independence, flexibility, entrepreneurship is positive, but the reality and evidence has shown that that's not the reality. And the reality has been masked to be that there's a lot of precarity within this, within the gig economy. There's long hours, people work long hours for very little pay. There's no social protection. There's no, generally, it's not what we have been told that it is. And one of the biggest issues that I'd like to highlight that has been a push for a lot of labor rights advocates is the issue of misclassification of workers. And this issue is that workers within the gig economy are classified as independent contractors, or sometimes they are called partners. I mean, we've seen some of that driver partners language like that. And what these narratives mean is that there is no obligation and no sense of accountability or responsibility put on the platform owners towards the worker. So as independent contractors, of course, you are not privy to minimum wage laws, you're not privy to laws that require you to work reasonable hours, and so you don't also have benefits like maternity leave, sick leave, health insurance. And so we know already that those who are already marginalized within our society are the ones who bear the brunt of all these implications.
Interrupt you, Joey, because it's very sobering words, but you're talking about this notion of exploitation, which has been something we've been living with just the way typical capitalist systems work. But I think there's another aspect of the gig economy that has a downside, which is the extractive nature of it. And really, I want to bring Chitundu into the conversation. So, again, a criticism of the big global app platforms is that their business model can be extractive. Do you have ideas on how the app platforms can be better players in the African ecosystem?
Yeah, thank you, Hugh. And I could answer it. New strategies around the digital economy and things like that. And one key thing in those documents is inclusion. So therefore it becomes important for, let me call them the big guys, to be a little bit more engaged and understand what governments are trying to do for their own people. Secondly, I think it's inclusion. I think the bigger guys need to be a little bit more deliberate, that when they're providing these platforms for that startup in Karen or in Gaborone or anywhere else, that since it's mostly focused on local indigenous situations, they need to be a little bit more inclusive, so that, for example, if it's maybe a solution around for people living with disability, there has to be deliberate policies by these bigger guys to make sure that the offering from that, African, Pan-African in that small city, who would have an opportunity for them to grow their business and use these platforms. Then also, I think it's the third thing is maybe around maybe their business models in terms of the fee structure. If you look at what we may call a smaller guy here, I mean in the West, here they'll be big. So these bigger guys need to have an idea of understanding maybe the local ecosystem, so that in their offerings they're really speaking to that Zambian who wants to develop a solution that is going to to drive inclusion, drive economic emancipation for that local community. So among the many things, I think those three for me are cardinal, and more so because there's already, for lack of a better word, political will from most governments in Africa. I've traveled across the region. Literally every country is speaking to how best can we include every citizen in this digital space. Thank you.
No, thank you, Chitundo. And I think we should also think about these apps that are developed locally. And I'll just give a shout out to my friend Joseph Chikota, who's developed something called Driven Fresh, which will allow you to order groceries online. But here's somebody who is struggling with load shedding and other challenges locally. So I'm hoping that there can be more support for entrepreneurs like that who are actually developing things locally. They are thinking about issues like inclusion, and it's not obviously extractive, as we said, if it's a foreign app. Salome, let me turn to you. How can we address some of these structural infrastructure issues that prevent many Africans from participating in the gig economy? For example, lack of access to credit cards or debit cards.
Yeah, thank you, Hugh. Let me start that at Visa, our purpose is to uplift everyone everywhere by being the best way to pay and be paid. We have a particular focus now on small businesses, which COVID really made us realize that they've been left out of the digital payment space in a very big way. So some of the barriers that actually exist in this space have to do with infrastructure development. Africa, and particularly Sub-Saharan Africa, is very big on mobile payments, which is great. But when you go rural, today we had one of the sessions on agri-tech, and what we're saying is some of the solutions they're trying to send out to the agriculture includes having a phone, but the farmers have to congregate up this hill on a tree, which is where there's network. So infrastructure can be an issue. It's great that we have mobile wallets, but it's expensive for the interoperability, so that moving money in Zambia from Airtel to MTN could be expensive, and things like that. So what we do is we like to, and we find it critical for us to work with partners. That includes the government, speaking about creating a name that are required in a country, and then seeing for us to do the remittance. So that's where we like to play, and we have found that there are solutions locally. It's just how do they reach everyone. I had the privilege to meet one company that Bupe. They're literally digitizing cash. They take cash that is very prevalent still with the small businesses, and they take the cash and deposit it, and you get instant credit into your Jabupe wallet. But then there's a limitation. This farmer or whoever it is that's deposited the cash, I still need to buy, say, groceries for my own use. I need to buy maybe inventory for something else. How then am I going to use the money that I've deposited? So it's discussions like this that we'd want to have with like-minded, who we can now help with technology, build a network where there is interoperability. And going further than that is we also want to do the education that comes with it, so that it's clear to both the small farmers, the fintechs, even the government, what exactly these payment solutions are doing so that the exploitation is gone, and the world is more open. So we've just done a consumer research at Visa, where from Zambia, it showed that 73% of Zambians give out their data, but they have no control over it. And just under 50% feel that this data that we give out, it's the corporates who are benefiting from this data. You'd be surprised to know that this is a similar thing across even developed countries like the US, where we've also done similar studies. So what we're trying to do is make everything equitable through education, open it up, let everybody know that your data is yours, not the organization that you've given it to. They're just your custodians. And how does this data get to benefit you? How does opening a wallet, it doesn't in the case of Ubers or there's a local solution here that where you go, how does that data work for me, who's the data owner? And so that's why we work, for instance, with mobile wallets to say, come to, if people into formal money movement, then a record is kept, for instance. If a record is kept, then I can go to a financier who can look and see, this is how much I sell, this is how much I spend. So you're good to borrow 1,000 kwacha. That will increase your inventory. And when you sell, how do I convert the sale into immediate money that goes into my wallet, or not necessarily a bank account, so that I have history, I can grow my business, and therefore I'm empowered through my small business to grow and provide for my family. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Salma. And you brought up something that is very near and dear to those of us involved in Mozilla, which is, if you know the Mozilla manifesto, there's this access of, we want free and available access for everybody in the internet, but also this notion of there should be a benefit, not just as you said, to corporates. So it's important to just reiterate that point. And also, I would say, I think all of you have touched on, I think, an important role that government and maybe even foundations can play when we think about infrastructure. If we think about how can we make sure that the system is more inclusive, less exploitative, I think those are some of the things those of you in the audience who are in some of these roles can think about, because you may not realize that, yes, these have influences on the gig economy. I want to ask one last question, and I'll direct it at Belinda, but the rest of you, please feel free to jump in. But I heard you once say something about fit for purpose, which I thought was very interesting. So how would you evaluate these gig economy platforms as being fit for purpose for an African audience?
Yeah, thank you, Hugh. So I think some of it has already been touched on. So as an organization, we've done a lot of work with entrepreneurs, and we've also done a lot of work with non-profits. So I'll look at touch on the entrepreneurs first, and then the non-profits. So with entrepreneurs, when we were talking to them about digital products that are available to them, that are easily accessible, download on a place from the Play Store. What seems like cheap to me, maybe it's 50 cents, is literally half or 30% of someone else's daily wage. So it's too expensive. It's not going to work if that application costs that much. And then the third thing is compatibility. And compatibility there could be even language compatibility. Maybe the application is designed and programmed in English. I don't speak English. Maybe I'm an old woman who's selling tomatoes in a rural area, or I'm in a peri-urban area, and yes, my client wants to pay online, and maybe they're using their phone as well to pay, but the navigating of that, I might be semi-literate or illiterate. So those are things that keep coming up. If you go further, even things about the technology, so yes, we might talk about mobile penetration rates being as high as like 70, 80% in sub-Saharan Africa, but when you look at the kind of mobile phone that the person has, not all of them will be compatible with the latest forms of technology. So the space on that mobile phone may not be, I may not have enough space to even do something for me. It may not be the best thing for my business. And then another important thing is a lot of the economies that we come from are informal economies, which means they are away from regulation. I think that's something that has already been touched on. They are away. They don't have regulatory oversight, so they don't have bank accounts, and they might be relying on mobile technology or cash-based transactions. And because their clients probably prefer cash-based transactions because they themselves are running away from the expense that is associated with bank accounts and whatever other applications that the bank might be leveraging on them, as a client. So if I want to pay my bills, but you're going to charge me $3 just to pay a $20, subscription, then I might as well pay it in cash. And, so all of those things are things that we need to consider. And then I think one thing that maybe I think local developers understand, but external developers coming into the continent see Africa as one big block, one big collective. Like it's just, one country from north to south, and it's not, So South Africa is very different from Botswana, Zimbabwe, Kenya. Very different, and even within each of those countries, there's a multitude of languages. So I'm Zimbabwean, and in Zimbabwe, we have 16 official languages. Across the whole continent, we could get up to 3,000. So if you come with an application in one language, it's not fit for everybody, and especially considering that 60% of the continent is still rural. Those applications won't work. So that's entrepreneurs. And then now when you're looking at nonprofits, again, like I said, as an organization, we've done a lot of work trying to leverage funding for nonprofits. And one of the things that led us to develop our own application to promote the work of nonprofits was because we noticed that a nonprofit in Nigeria is struggling to raise funds even from the diaspora network of Nigerians. How do people who are in the United Kingdom but are Nigerian give to Nigerian nonprofits? The payment, the bank. And you can find it online, where anybody across the continent can register and anybody can then give to that nonprofit. But the reason was, it's hard for me as a nonprofit owner or a community-based foundation to raise money for my own organization because the people I want to raise money from have no way of giving. So when you then think about people or organizations like ourselves who are seeing that need and then create an innovation because of the need, it then means all of the other platforms that were there probably didn't meet the need adequately enough, when they were created. So I think everything that we're developing has to be culturally and contextually relevant. Otherwise, you can spend hours developing an application, developing a website, but if people don't know how it fits with their personal lives, it's of no value to them. Yeah.
No, thank you for that. And I guess I would also just add, if you're an entrepreneur out there and you're wondering, how the heck do I compete with the Googles, the Ubers of the world? It's this point Belinda's making about fit for purpose. You're on the ground and you understand the cultural context much better than anyone in Mountain View, California can. And that's how you make your app more relevant. Are there any other thoughts on that?
I was going to comment about that. I think at Visa, what we do, we like to solution with the end in mind. And so we work with local partners, local communities, local fintechs to first find out, what are you solving for? Is there really a problem, or is it just need to have an app or a solution? So once we move the problem, then what are we trying to solve and who are we trying to solve for? Then the build is going to come. What we add as Visa, what we're good at is making the transaction reliable, because we have global experience, and also the security part of the transaction when it does come.
10, 15 years in this space and working with developers and entrepreneurs, what I've seen is that there's a lot of excitement in just coming up with something so that maybe I can go and show off to my friends. So what we are seeing, therefore, is the need for a hand-holding partner in the ecosystem to demonstrate that it's not about excitement, but it's about value. Value at two levels. Making the life of the community better by developing something that will solve a particular solution for that community or for that citizen in that community. And we have seen, like here in Zambia, that therefore that enablers therefore are becoming key, because they are the ones that are bridging this gap in terms of providing the necessary support and also just information, so that when this developer is thinking of coming up with a solution, it's something that will really speak to that citizen, and in that way they'll be able to create a market for that. And she did speak about it, infrastructure. We have seen that some of these solutions are being developed to ride on. Coming to Zambia, where the percentage of people with smartphones is less than 25%. We are seeing solutions that maybe are riding on 5G and other. The people around here are providing so fit for purpose therefore becomes critical from both ends, the private sector and indeed that developer, that when you are looking at providing a solution, look around to see what infrastructure is available for you to roll out that particular solution, because we have seen a lot of frustrations. This tech startup just thinks, in Zambia we are 21 million. There's this problem of ABCD, and they go and develop a solution that rides on 5G, and then there's no somebody taking that particular service. So fit for purpose therefore becomes key, and from a developer point of view, it's important to understand the environment so that you can develop a solution that will create a market for you. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, no, thanks for that, Chitundu. And I also think of the roles of some of these incubators or tech hubs like Bongo Hive, where I think it's very important that this is part of the training for entrepreneurs, because part of what you're talking about is just being customer focused, right? Start with the customer needs first. Okay, so I think now, as I promised, is a good time to go to the audience and see if you have questions for this panel. So who has a question for us? I see one over here.
Thank you. Hi, my question is, I think to Visa and Dr. Kasese. As technology advances, crime also gets sophisticated. You spoke about issues around security on the transit of the marginalized community themselves, because I'll give an example. I'm from Zambia, and the illiteracy levels in Zambia are high, worse so in terms of digital literacy. How are you training people to ensure that they keep their money safe? I think Zambia has become a pool now. You get an SMS every other day. Someone saying, can you send me the money? This is a different number. So how are you making these advancements, but also creating ways for people to be able to be aware about such scams? Thanks.
Great, thanks for the question. Did you get it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I did. So we're very big with working with fintechs, and we consider mobile network operators to be fintechs. Like I said, one of the things we at Visa are good at is security of the transactions. So what we then do is work with the mobile networks and any other fintechs, see how money is moving with them, and then suggest ways that would probably bring them into the VisaNet ecosystem, where the tools that we have developed are long-period money transactions. So that's what we actually try to do. What we found is it's almost like a good problem to have, but we have the answer too. So mobile money networks were the solution to financial inclusion. Now, the cyber bad actors have taken over that space because, I mean, this usually happens with the evolving of it all. So now we're at a point where securing those transactions has become top of mind. It's top of mind not just for the network operators, but even the regulators. So that's how then we would like to come in, work with you to see how then to secure those mobile money transactions, the same way we are doing a pretty good job of securing what we know as the old traditional card rail that can go into non-scheme agnostic, where we say non-visa transactions. We can apply our technology, our security technology to these transactions as well. And we are in very good discussions with operators around sub-Saharan Africa on how to secure those transactions as well. Yeah.
So Salome, I know you're based in Nairobi.
Kenya,
I'm just curious, if I'm an entrepreneur in Harare or in Gaborone, how do I get Visa's help in terms of this question about security?
We have people everywhere in the world. We cover the 54 countries in Africa, so you can get in touch with us. We do have an innovation hub in Nairobi where we like to even co-create solutions, like what you were talking about. You can't build something that might not be working with the, what's relevant in the country. So we're very big on co-creating a solution, bringing out what's new. So like in the case of securing transactions, we'll hear where it raised the transaction and probably build together what would work for the different markets. So you can reach us anywhere.
I guess the reason I was asking is I know you have this innovation center in Nairobi, but if I'm not in Nairobi, how do I get advantage?
Can I do that virtually
Can I just
as well.
Call you or send you an email?
Call me, send me an email. We can even have a session virtually, where we
wonderful.
ideate and co-create.
That's wonderful. Yeah, I think that's very powerful, this notion that you don't have to solve everything yourself. You can reach out to people in the ecosystem who have that expertise. Okay, next question. I think we have someone here.
All right. Thank you very much. My name is Okoro Onyekachi Emmanuel. I'm from Nigeria. And I have a question for Visa. Talking about inclusiveness, especially in rural communities, I'm asking, what work has Visa, or what plans does Visa have for digital inclusion? And how does that connect with fintechs? And since you called MTN a fintech, what work is Visa doing to ensure that MTN brings their infrastructure to places where they feel they don't have the market to back up that infrastructure? Because for these rural women to use this kind of technology, they need to have access to the internet or some form of connectivity to be able to reach that kind of goal. So I want to ask, what work are you doing to support that? Thank you.
Okay, so we have different solutions for different parts of the community. So rural specifically, how we are, for instance, reaching the small merchants. We do have solutions where we've developed that. The local mamamboga, that's what we call the lady who sells vegetables in the village, would want to still sell her vegetables. So we have developed, it's not an application, it can work on USSD, where she can accept payments from another mobile phone or even from a card. So we do work with the local in that vicinity, maybe with MTN, maybe not, but like in Kenya, we do work very with Safaricom to enable their merchants, who are also small businesses, to be able to accept payments. We also work with, there's some, you talked about payment gateways, Belinda. What we find is there are aggregators, actually, in our communities who, even in the local market, where maybe it's a chief who knows them, have some sort of ecosystem where it's a number of sellers who want to somehow digitize how they receive payment, how they get their inventory. And we do even if it's a rudimentary form or kind of infrastructure, to see how the solutions that we've developed can go all the way to the locals. We also run, I'll call them hackathons really, but we call for people and businesses to come and showcase what it is they're doing. We have an initiative in particular called She's Next. It talks specifically to women, small businesses, and we get women across Africa to apply on it. We give them coaching and mentorship on businesses, and there are those who win who even get grants to grow their businesses. So during the time that we spend with these businesses, we teach them through local partnerships that we have, how to manage your business you're doing. Therefore, you then have access to other financial services that can help you grow. So we're very big with working with partners on the ground. Yeah.
Thank you, Salma. I think we have time for one last question.
Uribo Belinda. That's all the Shona I know. My name is Samugele Mwase. I'm from Kauri. I'm a social entrepreneur. I wanted to ask Belinda, but also the whole panel, what do you think, in your opinion, would be the way to upskill Africans in the technology that's needed? By 2040 or 50, if I'm not mistaken, 1 in 4 in the globe will be African, and about 50 million Africans will be graduates, but they will have no jobs.
Yeah,
Great.
yeah. That's a
I
good
think
one.
upskilling is an issue, especially
Yeah.
Africa is going to have the most youth
Yes, exactly.
in the planet. Yeah, so
Yeah. Yes,
the
so
ideas.
I think she's already kind of answered the question. Skill is very important, especially when you're looking at, I think other countries have already started moving into a 5th industrial revolution. We are yet to, as a continental bloc, we're yet to even experience the fullness of the 4th industrial revolution, and it's a knowledge revolution. And the reason I think largely as a continent we've been left behind is because of that skills gap. That knowledge just isn't there. So if we were to focus on getting people the knowledge that they need, I think that would go a long way. But that knowledge alone won't make much difference. Just as you said, infrastructure, we're still battling with access to electricity, access to the hardware that you use when you've got that skill. If you don't have access to the computer, if you don't have access to the right kind of mobile phone, you won't be able to apply that skill. So yes, it's important to teach, but it's also important to make the process applicable to people on a lived realities. Yeah, and then I think also informality is a big issue. So just as she was saying about how a lot of the gig workers are hidden and without regulation, as different countries coming together and kind of putting in place rules, regulations that support gig workers or workers in a digital economy or knowledge economy, so that they can make a solid contribution in a positive way.
Later on, we have the Data Futures Lab showcase at 4:30 right here in this room. Please join us later. But I just want to give a special thanks to this panel, also to the production team behind the scenes. And on that note, take care, everybody. But let's give a big hand to our wonderful panel. Thank you, everyone. Great.
I think we can do a better job at putting our hands together for our panel. Yes, that's a little bit better. Thank you so much, everyone, for attending our panel discussion on whose gig economy. Anyway, we are so excited, and I hope you've taken notes and just learned so much. I have taken so many notes, and I have learned so much from the different sessions that we've had. So for now, we will be taking a short break from this room, but please be back at 4:30.